Welcome back to Inspired Forward, everyone. I'm Dan Trinidad, and I am really excited today to chat with, and for all of you to hear, insights by Jason Abell. Jason's the president of Rewire Inc. He's a speaker, he's a coach, he's a husband.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. It's Jason Abell.
Okay, Jason.
I'm so sorry.
I should have asked you that yesterday when we talked.
I figured I would just do that now in the beginning. I won't stop you anymore, I promise.
Jason Abell. Jason Abell. Jason Abell.
Abell like table.
Abell like table. I love it. Thanks, Jason, for that. And I should have confirmed that with you yesterday in our
okay.
In our pre-talk.
The way that it's spelled is Abell, so it makes sense, but it's Abell. So I won't interrupt you anymore, I promise. If you wanted to start over, you could, but I figured, okay, that we should probably get that part.
No, and I'm okay with you interrupting me any time that you feel is appropriate, for sure. Yeah. Well, Jason is a philanthropist. He's been in the mortgage space for many years, I think about 20. He's been a big producer in the mortgage space. He's led teams in the mortgage space. And he's also an author of a book that he actually wrote while he was in college. In fact, Jason, let's start with that, because I think that's huge. I mean, a lot of our listeners are aspiring to write a book, and to have someone so young get started in it, I think we'd love to hear about it.
Sure, thanks. I will say this, and I'll start when I was a teenager, and I promise you I won't bore you or your listeners, telling my entire life story. But when I was a teenager, my dad was he was a physician, but he was also a real estate investor, and he was very interested in books and materials and workshops by people like Zig Ziglar, John Maxwell, Dale Carnegie. And as a young kid, I weirdly and oddly enough, I geeked out on that information. Like I loved it. And what I noticed at the time was that information was available to people that are in yours and mine's seat now, like adults or the business world, but it wasn't really available for young adults. So I did my best effort in trying to synthesize that information into a book that was relevant for young adults. And when I say relevant, I was a young adult, so I thought, hey, I'll from my viewpoint, I'll dish this information out to my peers. And so I did that. And when I graduated school, I had different job offers and different things that I could have done, but I incorporated. I had a book in my hand. I thought I was way more cooler than I really was. And I went on the speaking circuit. And you'll laugh at this because you've had your business, 30 plus years, right?
Yeah,
like you,
yeah, 31 years.
31 years. And your whole podcast, and I know enough about you to know that your whole deal is the long game. So you'll probably get a kick out of this. And any of your listeners that have done anything worthwhile knows that it takes time, but I had this book in my hand. I incorporated. I had a business. I thought I was a hot shot, although I wasn't. And in 6 months, when I wasn't on Oprah, I just said, bag the whole thing. It'll never work. That was literally my thinking, and that was my mark, is to be on Oprah within 6 months. 21. 21. And so that is how I ended up getting into mortgage banking. I said, this will never work. And I kind of put the book down, put the speaking engagements down, and became a mortgage banker. And I guess the lesson there is, boy, it just takes longer than 6 months to make something work. And even though, you're asking me about my book and that experience, I will say that was, at the time, one of the worst experiences of my life, because I really thought like I was a failure, right? I was a young man in a hurry. It wasn't happening as quickly as I wanted it to happen. And I just thought, man, this'll never work. But even though that was kind of one of the worst experiences, at least from a professional standpoint at that point in my career and in my life, it's ending up being the very best experience for me. And that's one of the lessons that it's in that book that I'm actually rewriting now for young adults that I can tell you about in a little bit. But it was a life lesson for me because, you know, becoming a mortgage banker and kind of getting production up and rising through the ranks and that type of thing, that it took 21 years to do that. And then when I left mortgage banking and ended up starting Rewire with my friend and yours, Steve Scanlon, we did that 6 years ago. We started Rewire. When we weren't an instant success overnight within 6 months, I knew that it was actually going to be okay, that it takes a little bit longer than 6 months. And here we are 6 years later. And even though, gosh, we've had ups and downs, you know, you own a business, and anybody who's listening to this is either in real estate, they're running their own business, or mortgage bankers. Heck, even if they work for a company, they're really running their own business. It just takes a long time. Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I mean, I've never learned, I can't think of anything I've learned in my successes. You know, all my learning, you know, occurs from the challenges that I experienced, the failures that I've had, you know, a loss here and there. And that's where real growth, I think, takes place. But the remarkable thing is, man, you're a kid, and not a lot of kids have, you know, that kind of thinking and initiative to sit down and start writing about something that you think may add value to people and to help them along the way. So, you know, I think from hearing that, it sounds a lot like, you know, your dad's influence and the people he put in front of you, you know, gave you that. But so when did you realize that the not having success with your book at that young age, at what point in time did you realize, like, everything's going to be all right, and it was just part of my journey?
Well, it's a great question. I'll go back to something you just said prior, and then I'll answer your question. I don't know that I internally had that motivation and that type of thing. That came from the way that I was raised and my parents. My parents instilled in me, both my mom and my dad, and they still do today. Very fortunate. They're elderly, but they're alive, and they're still teaching me lessons today. But they instilled in me coming up, like, the world really is your oyster, and you really can do anything that you put your mind to. And so, you know, they paid for 4 years of college, and then had a lot of job offers coming out of school to, you know, really good jobs, paying good money. And I wanted to incorporate and run my own business, you know, with zero revenue. And my parents supported me in that. They supported my decision. I went and lived at home for a little while before I put some money together to, you know, try to, you know, get a place to live. And they supported that. And so without their the upbringing of, hey, don't just be a person that says that, boy, that'd be neat to go do something. Be the person that actually does something. Without that upbringing, the initiative that you're referring to, and that just wouldn't be there. So they just instilled that in me, and I owe everything.
Very cool. That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
I think, you know, that it's rare though, right? And there's not a lot of youngsters, you know, writing books to help people. I mean, it's just that simple. I think it's very, very cool. And I think that's, you know, probably, you know, how you're ending up in the career you're in now, and your passion certainly for helping people. So maybe give us a little bit of historical context on the mortgage space.
Sure. So when I did, you know, the book thing, the no Oprah thing, got into mortgage banking as an assistant. I mean, I was an assistant to 2 top producing loan officers. And I happened to be in an office where there were just a lot of really high producing loan officers. This was in the early 90s. They were strapping on suit and ties, and they were getting out there old school, making sales calls, knocking on doors. And I was watching a lot of younger men and women in their 20s really just, there was friendly competition in the office that I was in, and they were just doing really well. They were helping people at a very meaningful level. And mortgage banking and real estate, for that matter, then and still now, if you work hard, you can make a good income. And I was just observing that as an assistant and thinking, okay, I can do this. And I did. I had some people that took me under their wing, that coached me along. And within 6-8 months, I became a loan officer on my own, was working 24/7. Like again, young man in a hurry, working really hard, trying to do all the right things, skin in my knees, a lot, but continuing to get up the next morning and get out there and getting after it. Ended up, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6, 7 years into the business, my production level was plateauing around 15, 18 million a year. And that's when I made the leap. And I'll give this credit to Todd Duncan. Yeah, I know you know him as well. And he did then and still does a phenomenal job. Shout out to Todd. One of the things that he said that I know a lot of people have quoted over the years is, if you don't have an assistant, you are one. And then we all need help. And so that's when I took the leap and hired a coach. And I ended up being assigned to Steve Scanlon. Steve was my coach. And that is really when everything changed. That's when, I hired Steve, hey, help me produce more and help me make more money. And he's like, okay, young man, we'll get there.
Whoa.
Yeah. But the very first thing that he had me do, and this is, I'll credit Building Champions with this because that's a company that he worked for at the time, and an amazing company. And I know you're friends with those guys as well, and so am I. I can't say enough good things about those guys over there. The very first thing that Steve had me do was write my own eulogy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my gosh, please, I just tell me what to say when I go make a sales call so I can make the sale. And he's like, nope, we're going to do this first. So I did. And in my head, my mindset needed to change where I just needed to take a few steps back.
Jason, how old were you then when you hired?
So that was 22 plus 6 is what's that? 28, 29, something like that.
You've been a loan officer for 6 years, 5.5.
Yeah. That's about right. And so I just decided, Steve was coaching a lot of the top producers in the country at the time. And it just dawned on me, okay, this doesn't really make sense that I'm writing my eulogy and I'm working on mindset, types of things, but they're doing something that's working. And I just made a decision at that point, trust the system. And it took me, again, several years, but 10 years later, still was being coached by Steve. Steve coached me for 11 years. I'm a slow learner, but we were able to do regularly over $100 million of business. I was able to run a branch that was doing $500 million of business, at the same time. Blessed to just have amazing people around me that were supporting all of that. Steve was able to coach me through the death of a child. Steve was able to coach me through getting an MBA, through the birth of 2 other children, and with that, type of production, not working 24/7. At that time, towards the end of my mortgage banking career, I was very fortunate. I wasn't working weekends. I wasn't working evenings. And that's not an absolute, right? Of course, there were times where I was doing that.
But by practice, you weren't.
But by practice, I wasn't. And because of that, and as I looked around at some of my peers in the country who were really experiencing the same types of things, that's where Steve and I said, let's see if we can do this together for other people and really focus on not sales training and scripting and how to do sales calls, but really work on the mindset of people to help them become, who it is that they want to become. And so 6 years ago in 2014, January 2014, I joined Rewire. Steve and I helped start it up together. And here we are, 6 years later, 5-6 years later, and we've been able to do that. So that's kind of the maturation of my career, from the book to the mortgage banking to now being, full running a coaching company full time.
So where along the way did you get married and have children?
Man, you are so nice in asking that question. My wife, Amy, and I got married in 1996. And this Thursday, we'll be taking our oldest daughter to college for the first time. And
that's
so
big. Congratulations.
it's crazy. You hear about, I've always heard, time flies and all this kind of stuff. And I am now in that category of people that say, man, it just seems like yesterday we were rocking her in the cradle, and here we are taking her to college. So it's
Where's she going?
University of Tampa. So
Nice.
we're all getting in an airplane, the whole family, which consists of 4 of us now. We're getting in an airplane, flying her down there, and just doing that drill. I'm a newbie at all this, so I don't know what to expect, but I think it'll be great.
You expect to be proud, expect to be sad, expect all those emotions, man. It is not an easy thing for sure. Well, and no doubt you're in all that you've accomplished. Your wife must be a very strong, compassionate, helpful, patient woman. So it's always good to have one of those by your side when you're trying to do all that you're trying to do.
That and about 20 other adjectives that
I'm sure.
My wife, Amy, is absolutely the best. She has her own health and wellness coaching business, and we support each other, but there's not a chance that I could do half of what I do without her. There's no question. No question.
I think it takes us getting to a certain point in our lives where we really realize that, our support systems and learn to start, being grateful for what we have around us. So interesting. So your wife's a competitor.
That's a really good point. Dan, we've chosen to look at it as the fact that we augment one another. She coaches people in health and wellness, and of course we do some of that, but we've even collaborated. She's spoken at some of our retreats, and I've referred her clients, when we help people with mindset changes, but when they really want to get into the nuts and bolts of some health and wellness activities, that starts to be above my pay grade, and we refer out, and she's referred us clients. So we're not going to say that my wife is a competitor of mine. How about that?
I know. Believe me.
She'd kick my butt every day if we were. So we're gonna leave it as we augment one another's business.
There you go. So we didn't talk yesterday really about your nonprofit that you did. Tell us a little bit about raising so much money, just under $1 million for Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
Yeah, thanks for asking about that, Dan. So we had 2 children, and then we were trying for number 3, and we did have number 3, Sadie, and unfortunately, and I won't go. I could talk for hours on this particular story.
I know you can.
3 days after she was born, Sadie died, unfortunately. And she was at Johns Hopkins Children's Center in Baltimore, which is one of the best hospitals in the country. And what we were struck with during that experience, we were struck with all kinds of things, but one of the things that we were struck with is that even though our daughter didn't make it, the doctors and the nurses and the way that not only they cared for our daughter, but they cared for us, we just saw humanity in a different way, and in a really good way, in a really special way. And it affected us to the point where after we lifted our head, it took us several months before we even got our head back above water. But once we did, we looked around and we just said, there was no other choice but to do something in response to the manner in which, what we were exposed to through that experience. And so we got 15, 18 of our closest friends in a room, and we just said, okay, what do we do? We gotta do something here. What is it? My wife and I are runners, and we just said, let's run a lot and let's raise a bunch of money. And so we decided not to create our own race. So instead of all the time and energy in creating a race, we just really wanted time and energy in literally raising funds. And so we hooked on to the Baltimore Marathon, the Baltimore Running Festival, and for 10 years straight, we got a team together called Team Sadie. We ran a bunch of miles, and they just raised a bunch of money. We had thousands of runners that ran with us, and over the 10 years, you're right, it was just under $1 million, and they're There's an endowment there called Sadie's Gift, and Hopkins took over the run after we kind of bowed out of it. And they're still doing it. They've got a team, Hopkins, and they run and they raise money, and they're raising a ton of money doing it, more than we could ever raise on our own. And that's just been really fun. So we decided after 10 years, my mother has a saying that says, all good things come to an end. And there's just things that, you ride the ride, and at some point you get off the ride. And it was time after 10 years to get off the ride ourselves. And we lightly consult with them on the side, and they're doing their thing and raising a bunch of money, and it's a beautiful thing.
Wow, man. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I appreciate you asking about it.
Well, I know I told you a little bit about my story. I lost my wife of 28 years to leukemia, and kind of went through that same process. I started you don't know what to do, and you really don't have the energy or desire to do much. And, kind of the one thing that brought out a passion for me was gathering people to try to raise money to cure leukemia. And so we gathered a team of people, cyclists and runners, and started participating in Team in Training for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and raised
such a great organization.
Well over $1 million. Yeah. And
awesome.
Like you, it helped with my recovery for sure. We as men, as ambitious men, want to do the best we can to continue to give and provide. And it felt really good to bring groups of people together for a cause that was certainly close to my heart. And, it's an awesome experience. And it's so great to hear that that's kind of the route you took. You don't find a lot of people that have done that so well. So congratulations, and thanks again for sharing.
I appreciate it. It's neat to hear your story as well. And I kind of, like you said, hey, what gave you the drive and the ambition to write the book? And I think it's the same thing in response. And it sounds like it's your story too. There wasn't an option not to do what we did there with the charity. It was the people around us. It was our experience. It was God, to be quite honest with you. We just kind of followed the lead and did the deal. At the time, I don't know that there was a different response,
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that's when, from a coaching standpoint, we know when we hit on something, when it's not an option not to do something, whether it's they're talking about adoption or their family lives or whatever it is, health and wellness. When we hit on that, that's when we know, okay, something amazing is about to happen.
Wow, that's big. That's big insight. That's very cool. Very cool. So let's move into your coaching company, into Rewire. So you're talking and coaching a lot of people, as I'm sure Steve is as well. What is the most common pain point that you're observing or hearing? And really, and then how do you go about, helping people?
It's such a great question. We just created a form. We're calling it an ROI feedback form, where I say it's a great question because we just finished a project at Rewire where we've got this form where we're starting to collect data from our clients. We're doing a little micro feedback form after every single coaching session. And we do a couple hundred a month. And so it's a lot. And it's a 1-minute form that the coach fills out. And we had to figure out the answer to your question, which is what are the issues that everybody is dealing with? And, you think that, we're all so unique and we all deal with all kinds of different issues. But at the end of the day, they really do start to fit into certain buckets. And some of the ones that we see that are most prevalent are some form of time management. You may call that work-life balance. You may call that priority management. You may call that time management, time blocking. There's all kinds of different, but that tends to be a biggie for people. Health and wellness actually tends to be a real big one. People are having a hard time sleeping these days, and that's a challenge. That's an issue. That leads to eating issues that leads to being on edge, and all kinds of other issues. And so people come to us, and it may be, they might say, I want you to help me sell more, or I want you to help me communicate better, or I want you to help me become a better leader. But there's two places that we typically start. And this gets to the second half of your question, which is how do you help them? What we don't do is list out, okay, which of the 10 prescriptions can we take off the wall and give you, to figure this out. What we do instead is we start with how people are thinking. And our brand of coaching is called mindset coaching. And so we're going right for how people are thinking before we even get close to talking about or trying to solve for how people are acting. Because if you think about an iceberg, just that tip is above the iceberg, the big part is below the water line. All the stuff below the waterline, Dan, is how we're thinking and what's going on emotionally with us. And so at Rewire, that's the very first things that we start to hit. And it does strike people as odd, especially in real estate and mortgage banking, right? Because typical coaching is, hey, what are the techniques? What are the tricks? What are the silver bullets?
How many people you're calling? How many meetings you have? What's your pitch? What's your script? Yeah.
And I will admit to you that it's been hard because I was a top producer in the industry. There are days where it's hard for me to go, just say this when you're out there, or just make the dang sales call. But I don't, because what we do instead is we spend most of our time as divers under the waterline, helping people with their emotional state and the way that they're thinking. And if we can get there, it's like a combination lock, where once we can get there, you hear the lock unlock, and then people are committing to their own actions that then ultimately lead to the results. And we'll help facilitate the insights that they're having around the actions that they want to take, but we're not prescribing the actions that they take. They're coming up with their own prescription, and we facilitate, those insights, because quite frankly, Dan, you and I don't want to be told what to do. Our brains we don't like that. We may think that that's what we want, but that we want facilitation in me coming up with my own idea, because when I do that, oh man, now I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to follow through with it. And then the results, they just happen. And so rather than, to finish answering your question, I'll take a breath. Rather than focusing on, 101 goal setting says, well, what's the, how much money do you want to make, or what's the result that you want to get? And then you work backwards from there. And from a science standpoint, that really does work, right? You do what do we call it? The chunk down theory. I want to make this much money. I make this much money per deal. To close this many deals, I've got to app this many people or make this many listing appointments. And to make this many listing appointments, I have to get this many leads. And to get this many leads, up down the line. And that science and that math problem does work. It literally does work. But what if you don't have the right mindset to actually go do the activities to get those leads? And the reality is most people don't. And so that's where we come in with our brand of coaching, the mindset coaching, where we put on our diver suit, we go down below the waterline, we help people with their thinking, then they come up with their own actions, and we facilitate all that. And then the results, man, I don't want to call it magic, but it happens, and we see it every day. I shake my head almost on a daily basis with the results that our clients are getting. It's just not the way that they thought they were going to get them. That's all.
Right. No, I get it. So, one of the challenges I'm having as a leader is constantly reminding myself that, it's the whole Jason Abell coming to work for us. It's not a loan officer coming to work for us or a processor. I mean, we have an integrated life, and I've got to always remember and teach that their career needs to fit into their entire life. And, they come with their health, they come with their baggage, their history, their goals, their vision, their relationships. And oftentimes I get stuck in what you just suggest, how many calls did you make? You got to do this, this, and this, because you do. But to your point, when I get to a deeper conversation as to, what's getting in the way, or where are they struggling internally, where do they suffer? Where, do they have regrets? Do they have anxiety about their future?
Yes. Those
Those sorts of things is when I generally get the most results out of helping somebody. But man, you must, so are most of the people you deal with in the mortgage space and real estate space?
Yeah, when we started, our circle of influence was mortgage and real estate. And
Yeah.
that's when you start a business, there's nobody else except the people that you know. And so yeah, the majority of our clients are in the mortgage and real estate space. But what's been interesting is, we've got forestry companies, insurance companies, financial planners, big clothing retailers, because when you deal with mindset, we're all human beings,
Right.
and we're our coaches. We've got coaches all spread out all throughout the country, all certified through the ICF, the national certifying, or really global certifying organization. And some of them are past mortgage bankers and been in real estate or know about banking, and some of them are not. And the cool thing is, it doesn't matter,
Right.
because we're dealing with mindset. There's still the person that doesn't come from mortgage banking that's helping are the top producers in the country that we're fortunate enough to have as clients. We have some of our coaches that don't come from mortgage are coaching them to do amazing things in the mortgage space, because it's not about do I know my eights or bips or whatever. It's about the mindset piece.
Wow. So how does Amy get her clients?
That's a great question. Man, she does the same type of thing, but in the health and wellness. She
All health and
adds
wellness.
value. She adds value. She's got newsletters. She does talks. She gets testimonials. I mean, there's no easy way to do it. And I will say this in regards to her, and this will help your listeners. I find that with coaching, and it's similar to you with leading a company. I don't know you that well, Dan, but I know this about you, and I'm just I would bet this. You just care a ton about people, right? You care about the people that you lead. And the reason that I know that about you is because you've been in business for 30 years. You've got longevity there. You run a successful business. And so when it comes to your question about, my wife, Amy, she cares a ton about people. It's her mission as a health and wellness coach to help people take care of the vessel, the physical vessel that they've been given to actualize themselves. And she is extremely passionate about that. I don't hear her talk very often about, hey, I'm going to make this much money this month or this year. It's about, man, we're helping these people to a deep degree. And what's really cool, and I'll brag about her just for a minute or two, for many years, my career, as far as our marriage goes, my career was front and center, and she was the support. And then as our kids got older, she got herself certified. She's always been passionate about helping people. She got herself certified, and she started helping people. And she wasn't even really trying to grow this big business, but she grew this big business because she just helped people add value, And there's days where I'm helping her with her business, because she's just doing really well. And so, yeah, how you get business is, I guess I do probably have a silver bullet for that. Just care a ton about people and add value to people. And those results, like, I don't know, they just happen.
And it's something you can't really fake. You've got to truly care about your clients or the people you're working with. So who do you, how do I ask this? So the people that come to get coached by you, are they coming to you because they're deeply struggling with something and they were recommended to you? Are they more driven individuals that come to you thinking, I just want to get bigger, better, improve my life? How do they step into your, to where you're at?
Great question. Well, now we certainly take individual clients, but mostly now we take enterprise level clients. And what I mean by that is we help the industry and the country's growth-minded companies, the companies, leaders like yourself that want to develop their people, that have the mindset that they want to develop people. And we'll come in and we're the de facto in-house coaching solution for them. So on an enterprise level, and we even white label our coaching. So we do everything. We power it. We supply the coaches. We supply the mechanism, the feedback loop, the measurements, all of that. But it's their in-house coaching program. So a lot of our clients at the enterprise level, they'll have, the Dan Trinidad, coaching program or whatever it is, but it's powered by Rewire. So and on the enterprise level, we're looking for companies that are doing really well and they're growth minded. They want to put their money where their mouth is, invest time and money in their people to grow them, and to use some of your words, for the long game, right? They're not looking for the quick hit. They're looking, for the long game. And so our typical client, like literally the person that we're client, which is or person that we're coaching as a client, which is really what you asked about, is the person that is doing well and they want to do great long term. It's the good to great, type of a client. And so we're not the coaching company that is helping the struggling person grabbing for straws to do better. We're helping the person that they're on the road and they're growth minded and they want to really do that for the long haul. And they're not just looking to make more money. They want to produce more and do great things in their career, but they're looking to, again, to use your words, they're looking to bring their whole selves to the coaching environment. Man, I want to be good relationally. I want to be good from a health and wellness standpoint. I want to be good in my, communication, leadership skills, business, everything. So it's a really a long-winded answer and I apologize, but
thank you. I mean, it really helps. So Jason, a lot of our listeners are owners of companies, mortgage and real estate. How can they get a hold of you?
Wow. That's nice, Dan. When I knew you were going to interview me, I thought I was going to talk about myself a bunch, and you've given me an opportunity to do that. But yeah, Rewire. So rewireinc.com. We're there. And if you Googled mindset coaching, we'd be the first thing to pop up. A real fun place for people to start the journey with Rewire to see about mindset coaching is we have a free program out there. It's called a 30-day sprint. And if you Googled Rewire 30-day sprint, again, it'll be the first thing that pops up. It's 100% free. And it is, I bet one day we would charge for it. It's a program that's good. It's 100% automated. And basically what happens, I went through it myself a month ago. And what the 30-day sprint is you get an email a day for 30 days. You commit to doing one thing for 10 minutes a day. You start on day one. It's the goal setting and goal getting program all within 30 days. And you just do 10 minutes a day. And the goal that you set in the beginning of the 30-day sprint, you end up achieving at the end of 30 days, only at 10 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. And just to give you a for instance, and what I can do, Dan, I don't know, I'll quickly share my screen here. I don't know how many of your people, watch this via on the internet, but it's rewireinc.com 30-day sprint. This is what the 30-day sprint, looks like. You fill out a quick form and you're in. You get an email a day. And on LinkedIn, we've even got videos. I went through the program myself, and I did every single day. I did a video of what my experience was going through the sprint.
What was your goal?
I had 3 different goals. One goal was to do a LinkedIn video about my experience every day for 30 days. And I did that. I achieved that. And we had a couple hundred people that were doing it with me and going along with the experience. So that was one of my goals. Another one of my goals was to spend one-on-one time with each member of my family. So there's Amy and our 2 kids, and with our daughter going off to college. Like, I wanted to make sure that I had one-on-one time, with each one of them and my wife, and we were able to do that. So those goals, were achieved. And when you put yourself out there, and this is a little plug for anybody thinking about doing videos or social media. Boy, when you put yourself out there, things just start to happen. I said on LinkedIn and on social media, I was going to do this 30-day sprint deal. And gosh, what if I didn't do it? Right?
What a great accountability program.
Yeah. And so I did it. So anyways, I think I'm a LinkedIn, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, I even did a blooper reel because I did so many videos. We ended up creating a blooper reel that people are having fun laughing at me at, because it's, this because you do your podcast. I'm sure there's like outtakes and bloopers and, all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, we try to find the portion that isn't a blooper.
Right. Exactly.
That's where the learning takes place, man. So to answer your question, for people that did want to engage us, for the owners you go to rewireinc.com. We're all on there, and we've got a whole system to help, get people on the road and to help people out. So thank you for asking. Oh, you bet. And for people that want to get in touch with you, can they?
For sure. I am, I'm a couple different places. I've like I said, apparently I'm people like me on LinkedIn. So, Jason Abell on LinkedIn. And then email address is, rewireinc or jason@rewireinc.com. So I'm there, and I love chatting with people. So love helping people. So anybody can reach out to me. I'm happy to engage anybody.
It definitely comes through, Jason. Well, Jason Abell, not Abell, thank you so much for your time today. And I really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit. Look forward to talking more here in the future.
Likewise, Dan, such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. Love your questions. Can't wait to engage you more in the future, brother.
Great. Thanks, Jason. Have a great day.
You do the same.
All right. Bye-bye.